This is TSN Inside Sports. Young girls trying to make time stand still. Women's gymnastics is a sport for the young, and the career of a female gymnast lasts only as long as she can retain her childlike body. Tonight, a For the Love of the Game documentary on the rigors of being a world-class gymnast. Hello and welcome again to TSN Inside Sports. I'm Brendan Connor sitting in for Dave Hodge. Tonight we present another in our series For the Love of the Game, and perhaps that title couldn't be more fitting for the documentary you're about to see. It's about young women, still girls really, and a sport that can be ruthless, unforgiving, and can play havoc with self-esteem. It's about gymnastics, and yes, there are some great things about this elegant and graceful sport, and Canada has long been an international leader in the sport, but it can also exact an immeasurable toll on the bodies and the psyches of young girls. I think you'll find yourself shaking your head a few times as you watch this. A story of 3 young athletes, all of whom are in it for the love of the game, but at some personal cost.
The normal concerns of today's teenage girls range from studying to dating to acne. But there is a small group of young girls who live in a world few adults would dare venture. One of intensity, scrutiny, and pressure. This is the world of the elite gymnast. In this edition of For the Love of the Game, we'll follow 3 girls who have all performed as members of Canada's national team. Lisa Symes, who left her family and friends 2,000 kilometers away in the hopes of fulfilling a dream. Jackie Bender, who has spent the last 2 years battling against her own body in an attempt to slow down time.
It's never been to the extent of, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Because just that question forces me to answer another question, what would I do without it?
And Sarah Rainey, who at the peak of her career bitterly left the sport.
I think my biggest problem is I wasn't tough enough and I couldn't put up with what they dished out.
3 years ago, at the age of 14, Lisa Symes was enrolled in gymnastics in her hometown of Regina, Saskatchewan. Her coaches knew she had potential and, together with her parents, encouraged Lisa to move out east.
If I said no, I would always be like, what if I went, you know? Because we always have all these big dreams and goals, and, you know, I'd be saying, what if, what if?
The very hardest part was the trip down and then saying goodbye. Very difficult. At one point in time, I said to my wife, let's take her home with us.
Severing the emotional umbilical cord can be painful. As the parent, Bill Symes could do little but sit idly by and wait as his daughter ventured out on her own for the first time, taking on new challenges, meeting a new peer group, and facing the initial isolation such a move brings.
I'm sure that she cried herself to sleep many times.
So I just kept calling home and calling my sisters, all the people I used to be in contact with. And I know that if they were there, it'd be easier. And even if it wouldn't be that much easier, I know it would be easier. Basically, I've had to deal with things a lot more myself and make a lot of my own decisions.
I'm not sure if I was starting 2 years ago, would I do it again? I don't know. That would be very hard. Knowing what I know now, it would be a harder decision to make.
Hindsight is 20/20. Unfortunately, life is not. Taking such a big step was no guarantee of success. It was imperative that both Lisa and her father were aware of this.
The support also has to be there. If that athlete recognizes that he or she made possibly the wrong decision and decides to go back home.
If it's too hard for me, or if I'm not enjoying myself, or if just things aren't working out, then they're there to take the pressure off, and they're there to say, okay, you come home if you want.
It's a comforting alternative Lisa can exercise if she chooses. Some kids aren't so fortuitous. The path they travel is decided for them by the people closest to them.
She got extremely caught up in it. It was like she was in her dream world expecting all this stuff.
Sarah Rainey was no different than other girls her age. Bouncing on her mother's furniture led to a trip to the local gymnasium. Her slender frame and superior agility soon found her winning competitions at the local and provincial level. At the age of 13, when most of her peers were preparing for high school, Sarah was the youngest member of Canada's women's gymnastics team, preparing for the World Championships. A few months ago, at the peak of her career, Sarah left the sport, fed up with the many pressures placed upon her.
When parents expect their kids to win, children are living sport through some of their parents' ideals.
That's what I always thought of my mom. She was a gymnast before, and she didn't go very far. She was provincial or recreational or something. And I think that she pushed me so hard in gymnastics because if that was her, she'd want to succeed and wish she could succeed. So she lived her dream through me.
Sarah's mother is not alone. It's a temptation all parents face. Their child represents the opportunity to do it again. And when the glory, fame, and all the trappings of success are placed in front of them, some parents have a difficulty discerning the goals of the child from the goals of themselves.
But parents have to really understand the child, they have to understand the coach, and the objectives for the coach, the child, and the parent, they have to be the same.
It's important that those three members talk about each other's expectations. So the coach may say, you know, you have a right to know how your son or daughter is doing, and I'm happy to give you that information, but leave the technical elements to me.
Dr. Gretchen Kerr is the psychologist for the women's national team. One of her many duties is to liaise with the parents. In many cases, she is asked to speak on the child's behalf.
I just want my parent to be a parent. I don't want them involved in the sport. I want them to be there to you know, put the pieces back together. If I don't do well, I need them to be supportive and positive.
I think the kids put enough pressure on themselves. I think they need encouragement and love at home, and that's it.
Our job is to be a positive reinforcement for them. Try to be an encouragement.
A well-rounded gymnast is adept at all the disciplines of her sport, not just in the gym, but outside as well. She needs to receive the proper amounts of rest and to eat the right foods. For Sarah, it was in this area where most of the pressure came.
She put a lot of pressure on me about my weight. She'd say, Sarah, you look fat. Little things here and there, don't eat that, you're going to get fat. And little things here and there, are you going up to the track to run? No. Well, you should, you're going to gain weight. And just when I quit gym, she was 10 times worse. She wouldn't let me eat, and I had to sneak food, just like an apple. So I am having a hard time forgiving her for that.
Medium deep on 2, ready? Hit! Red 2! Red 2! Ready, set! Hop 1! Hop 2!
Right now at Pizza Hut, order any 2 medium or large pizzas at regular price and get a free 2-liter bottle of Pepsi. But you gotta ask for it.
The NFL Class of '95 is hitting more than the books in September. Get set for another spectacular season of Sunday Night Thrills. The NFL sizzles in September on Real TV TSN.
The
stereotype of a good gymnast is skinny and tiny, just tiny everywhere.
There was a time when we would see female gymnasts out there who looked like women. They had breasts, they had hips, they had a waist, they had a little bit of meat on their thighs, and that wasn't all that long ago. We're talking 20, 25 years ago.
The turning point, 1972 in Munich. Olga Korbut at 4'11" and just 82 pounds would amaze judges and spectators alike. 4 years later, a tiny Nadia Comaneci, at just 14, would perform a perfect routine, forever changing the way the sport would look at the athlete.
Now they are prepubescents. They're bony, they're skinny, they're children.
So they put this excessive pressure on themselves to try to maintain a certain body image. And there's no question about it within sport, it's a problem.
It's a huge issue. It's bigger than anyone would believe.
Balancing on beams just 4 inches wide, sailing gracefully through the air, it's what the judges, fans, and coaches have come to expect from the sport of women's gymnastics. Spectacular feats, best achieved by someone small, agile, and lightweight.
They like to stress how no, weight's not an issue, but as an athlete, you look back on your training and you think, well, it had to have been a big issue. I've been fat tested since I was 10 years old. Some clubs you get weighed every day.
Every day?
Every day, before and after training. I'd panic, yeah. I'd be like, oh no, we gotta get weighed. 1, 2, 3.
At age 17, Sarah has been retired from competitive gymnastics for the past 10 months. She now coaches part-time at a recreational club in Cambridge, Ontario. Here, weight is not an issue, but it wasn't that way for Sarah. As an elite gymnast, throughout her career, coaches would stress body image and weight reduction, and together they would examine ways of controlling it.
There's been times where they've gone off the rules to help you lose weight.
Gone off the rules?
Yeah, basic rules like don't drink, cut down what you're eating, running with garbage bags.
Garbage bags?
Yeah, around your legs, with a couple tracksuits on. It was mainly because of my weight fluctuations. I gained about 3 or 4 pounds, so I was supposed to run until I lost weight, and then by the end of the practice I'd lost 3 pounds or something. And in that case, you're losing mostly water. And the next day it would be back on again and have to run again. Just knowing that you're getting weight, it's a constant reminder. But every time you eat something is also a reminder. Should I be eating this or shouldn't I?
Proper nutrition is vital in the development of young people. However, a preoccupation with calorie intake beginning at such a young age can turn into excessive compulsive behavior, and that can turn deadly. Last August, 22-year-old Christy Hendrich, a former member of the U.S. women's gymnastics team, died. She suffered from the eating disorders anorexia and bulimia. Both she and her family had blamed the sport for the beginning and escalation of the disease.
If you did it once and you saw the weight go down, you'd be like, wow, I'm going to do this again, again, and again. I don't know.
Gymnasts, like all high-performance athletes, are compulsive by the very nature of their sport. Each move, each routine is repetitiously practiced. Subtle, minute adjustments are considered. Hands change position, backs are arched higher, and takeoff points are moved. If any or all produce positive results, then the effort was worthwhile. For some, the same holds true for the binging and fasting inherent with eating disorders. Although Sarah denies having had serious problems, there were times when she made adjustments to her eating habits.
I wouldn't say that I didn't have an eating disorder. I know I was accused of being bulimic.
You run into these problems when generally people are not feeling good about themselves unless they can get themselves down to the weight that is acceptable. Not necessarily acceptable by them, but possibly acceptable by others, like their coaches or parents.
And they'll say, oh, you need to lose 5 pounds, so you won't eat a lot, at least, for about a week and a half.
It is something we have to look out for. There is a tendency for it, as there is in any sport where physical appearance is important for the performance.
For a point, I went through a stage where, to get my weight off, I wouldn't eat at all. And then, after a while, it wouldn't work anymore. And I'd starve myself, and I still wouldn't lose weight. And that's when they thought I was bulimic.
For many of us, weight is an ongoing concern. It'd be nice to shed a few pounds for the summer or to fit into an old pair of jeans. For girls such as Sarah, however, it is much more important. It is a battle against time, an attempt to stave off puberty and to retain their livelihood. Typical of the majority, Sarah did not go to extremes that were life-threatening, but her overall experience has left some lasting impressions.
Weight. It's stuck in my head still. I am terrified of scales now. I am absolutely terrified. I'm scared to see the numbers up. I don't like to see numbers. I like to see them go down. And if I know they're up, I won't get on. I think it gets clocked in your mind that fat is not good. And it's always there. It will always stick in your head. A good day would be, for me, something that would make me feel good. Just a little thing would be, oh, Sarah, you look good today. You look like you've lost a few pounds. A bad day, get downstairs and run. Those I remember those days.
Imagine a building of 5,000 filled to capacity, all staring at you. The silence is deafening. The next 2 minutes of your life will justify the last 10 years. You're clothed in what amounts to a swimsuit, being subjectively scored by judges, scrutinized by peers and fans. The slightest loss of concentration could mean the difference between success and failure. And you're just 15 years old.
The pressures put on the young people are enormous because you are competing in an adult sport. You're competing internationally in front of the media, tremendous pressures, that you've got a child's mind in a child's body.
There is a lot of pressure, yeah. And some kids can handle the competitive pressure and some kids can't.
Once you start having trouble competing, then you start to believe that, you know, you may be a good gymnast, but I can't seem to pull it together in competition. And then you get into a self-fulfilling prophecy situation.
Some people say, well, you only have to do one routine on each event, but that one routine, it's so mentally tough.
For Lisa, it has been an ongoing struggle. While consistently excelling on the practice floor, competing has produced the opposite results.
Sometimes she has trouble performing in competition to the level she can prepare in the gym.
The pressure to win, I hope that we're not putting any on her to win.
I think that I probably put a lot on myself. If I have a bad competition, I feel like, what are people going to say? She's not doing anything. I know that I'm working towards my goal, and as long as I keep working, then I'll get my goal.
In recent years, a support system has been developed to help young athletes cope with the stresses inherent in competing.
Well, the first step is to find out what they're thinking, what they're experiencing.
It's really helped me talking with her because I can trust her.
So they're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, how can I stay on the beam when my legs are shaking so badly? What are the judges thinking? What are my coaches and parents thinking?
She'd tell me how to maybe control my nervous system.
So the trick is to keep their focus, their concentration on the task at hand, which is their routine, and specifically one move at a time.
For Lisa, the time spent with Dr. Kerr working on the psychological aspect of her sport paid off last August.
And looks like she's overcome it, making the Commonwealth team.
This is Lisa Symes of Canada.
How do you think she'll do?
I think she'll do very well. I think this was what she needed.
Regina, Saskatchewan's Lisa Symes already has a bronze medal today.
Lisa went to Victoria prepared both mentally and physically. She performed much better than she'd anticipated, winning 2 bronze medals, and was an intricate part of Canada's success. With family and friends attending the international competition, Lisa managed to block out everything around her except the job at hand, having attained one more in a long list of personal goals. For as long as the journey takes to reach the top, the fall can be conversely as fast. Jackie Bender has spent 25 hours a week in the gym for the past 12 years. As a national team member, she's traveled extensively, competed internationally, representing Canada and accomplishing much for herself and her country. But 14 months ago, a recurring back injury resurfaced and forced her to the sidelines.
It hasn't held up as long as I had expected it to, so I find myself in an awkward situation that I may be forced to consider what I consider a premature retirement.
Sometimes your body isn't good for the sport. You know, you keep having chronic problems of one sort or another. And, you know, if it can't be easily worked out, then it's probably time to change directions.
The prospect of retirement, we all must deal with it at some point in our lives. Usually it happens in our late 50s, early 60s. By that point, most are ready for it. 30 years in the workplace is enough. Jackie is representative of most female gymnasts where the retirement looms before their teen years are completed. For Jackie, instead of 50 years behind her, she was looking at 50 years ahead of her.
Retirement tends to be a difficult period for athletes, particularly if it was what we call involuntary retirement, where an injury has forced retirement.
Well, I think for Jackie that unfortunately that would be probably her best choice.
Light training and physiotherapy had not helped Jackie's back. Unfortunately, retirement seemed imminent. After 12 years of total immersion in a sport, one's self-perception can be skewed.
To me, what I consider myself as now is I'm still a gymnast.
So rather than saying, I am a gymnast, they should be saying, I am so-and-so, and I also do gymnastics.
I haven't gotten that far in my thinking to know what else I'll do.
Therefore, when gymnastics isn't there, they're still so-and-so with all these other characteristics.
Gymnastics has been marvelous to Jackie, and she's loved it, and I think she's been good for gymnastics. But I think I say to her, there's a life after gymnastics.
And unless we prepare young people for that transition, we're going to lose a lot of them during it.
I worried about that with Jackie, and in terms of, are we as parents ensuring that she gets the right mix of things, so that when it's time to let go, that she can let go.
Can you?
I know it's going to be difficult. But with my parents, with friends, with family around me, I know it'll be a transition that I will be able to make.
Jackie no longer spends 5 days a week in the gym, no longer balances on a 4-inch beam, and is no longer a member of Canada's national team. Her role for the past several months and for the rest of her life has been relegated to spectator. Gymnastics is a great recreational sport for children. Besides the obvious benefits from the exercise, it teaches them that discipline, dedication, and hard work often pay off. However, the average elite female gymnast will probably spend 12 to 15 years in the sport, which represents only 15 to 20% of their lifetime. The parents, coaches, and officials in women's gymnastics must be cognizant of this and help them to develop the skills necessary to cope with the other 80% of their life. It's easy to forget the initial reasons for putting children in high-performance sport. But strip away the poise, the athletic skills, the medals and pressures of the game, and what should remain are children having fun.